everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining me again today. I am here with Sean Phillips. He is the head men's soccer coach over at UIC in Chicago. How are we doing today, Sean?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We're both in the same city, so you know how the weather is. It's kind of sunny at least. It's a little chilly, but not too bad.
No, it's good enough for an outside run later.
Yeah, absolutely. Have things been in this downtime for you?
It's been pretty unique. My wife and I constantly joke about how every day we set a world record or a new record for our marriage. We've not been in the same city, much less the same house, this many consecutive days since we started dating almost 20 years ago. So it's every day we wake up and we're lucky, we're fortunate, and our two kids are managing it as well. So
Nice.
all thing in it, everything's good.
Yeah, awesome. How's UIC looking as far as like graduation? They're almost done with the spring semester?
Yes, this is finals week. The virtual graduation is for this weekend. I think the school's done a really good job with paying attention to the needs of these graduating seniors, whether it's our undergrads or our med school students or our grad school students. They're doing a real nice job with it.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's definitely an interesting time. It's nice that people can kind of adapt and just do what needs to be done.
No,
Now,
and that's been great about the school.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you as far as your coaching career goes and kind of learn about your background. Can you share with us how you got started and how you ended up over at UIC?
Going all the way back to when I finished my youth career, I finished playing for a gentleman by the name of Horst Bertel with the Comets in 1991. As soon as I finished, the next week he looked at me and said, "Hey, I need you to come and help me put together the next team." So this group of U11 kids. I said, "Sure. How can I help you?" He goes, "I want you to train the goalkeepers," because that was my background. And really, it started every single summer. When I would come back, I would help him coach this team, and that group of kids ended up allowing me to cut my teeth, not just with goalkeeper coaches, which was my foot in the door in the college game, but also just team coaching. I did that for a while and also managed a career in the sports business world, and I hit a crossroads in the late 90s, and I figured I was missing the coaching. My sports business career had started taking away time from on the field, and it hit me. I was like, I'm missing this. Well, right about the same time, Jerry Yeagley, who was the head coach at Indiana at the time and for whom I played when I was a player there, he said, "Hey, I'm going to have an opening on the staff starting in January of 2000. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yes, that would be great." So that was my foot in the door into college soccer in January of 2000. And again, right in that role, I started off with goalkeepers only. But then over the course of those next 5 years, it evolved into training the reserves and having some first team responsibilities. A lot of times it was set pieces, especially in that last year with Coach Freitag when we won the second half of the 03 and 04 national championships. That it had constantly evolved, and that was my foot in the door. And I think every coach has a similar story of how they got their foot in the door, and they had to scratch and claw, and being a volunteer, going to grad school at the same time. You're teaching, coaching soccer. You're running the local youth club in a town of 60,000. You're working 8 weeks at camp in a 9-week summer. So it all starts like that, and then if you're able to grind it out and you get a couple of breaks to go your way, which I did, you can end up in a scenario like I'm in now. And the break was UIC had a head coaching position open in January of 05. John Trask, who's now the head coach at Wisconsin, and was the grad assistant my freshman year at Indiana, he became the head coach here. He knew I was ready for a new challenge. And so instead of being one of 3 assistants, I became his only full-time assistant and right-hand man. And as we had our success from 05 through 09, he was rewarded with an opportunity to go be a head coach at Wisconsin, and I was rewarded with the opportunity to be the head coach here at UIC.
Nice. Sounds like an awesome career that you had going there, and I agree. You kind of have to start somewhere, get your foot in the door, and work your way up for sure. Now, if you could coach against any college coach that is either active or retired, who would that be?
It's kind of interesting you asked that question, because when I put the schedule together for this year, I was reviewing it with my wife, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me when I did it, but we are scheduled to open against Grand Canyon University, and the head coach at Grand Canyon is a gentleman by the name of Shells Hyndman, who was the longtime head coach at SMU. Growing up in Dallas, he was the man. He was that you wanted to play at SMU. Shellis was the top of the mountain in soccer coaching in the Dallas area in the 80s. So it's going to be really, I'm looking forward to getting to coach against him when we open the season.
Yeah.
It's every time now, it seems, or every season it seems, I'm going up against, I've got interesting stories like that. A bunch of my peers are now head coaches. It's really neat that this year I'll get to coach against Indiana University as a head coach, going against their head coach, Todd. Last year I coached against Ohio State, their head coach, Brian Mazanoff. Well, the three of us were all freshmen together at Indiana University in 1991. So
Cool.
as this is coming along, I've gotten to coach against John Trask a couple of times. Guys I shared a field with, really worked hard and all cut our teeth together. We're starting to coach against each other. Or guys you used to coach against and coached with and against at camps as you were getting things started. A lot of us are fortunate we have head coaching positions now, and those are the ones really I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, absolutely. It is funny how small the coaching world actually is, and you guys start to get to know each other, and people move from school to school, and you don't really lose those connections. So that's pretty cool that you get to coach against your friends from college.
Yeah, no, it is great to have those opportunities, and once as you prepare for that game, it's very professional. We're doing everything we can to win.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the game, you want to be the winner, and you want your peer or your good friend to be the loser. And after all the emotions of the game are over, you get back on the phone with each other, and you pick up your relationship right where it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being competitive and then still being able to, you know, grab a Coke afterwards.
Yes.
Now, speaking of food, I guess, what would be kind of your go-to pregame meal?
Oh, as a player, now when I played, sports science wasn't quite what it is right now.
Yeah.
We always seemed to have chicken parm, which fried food, you're sitting there just scratching your head going, what was I doing then and there? But
Yeah.
but now with all the sports science that we have, and really starting to make sure that the student athletes get what they want. What we've gone to here at UIC is we're starting to add in layers of getting the guys a decent meal the day before a game, because a lot of times the science now is starting to show that we're just starting to roll that out. Now, when you look at the actual day of the game, the 4 hours before, what we offer the guys is pretty plain, in the sense of it's chicken, it's pasta, it's salad, because every guy's diet's a little bit different. Some guys want a red sauce, some guys want a white sauce, some guys want more salad, some guys might want more bread. But we'll cater that to where everybody gets what they're hoping for. And then we've got a great breakfast place in town for our early afternoon games, where the guys are a little bit more for a breakfast scenario. And when you start looking at the nutrition, it's something you've got to do now for the guys with the games and all the science. It's if you want to take care of the kids, which we do, you have to start lining multiple meals up and not just one pregame meal anymore, and then the postgame meal. And until the NCAA gets away from this mandated Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday stuff, we've got to get food in right away, because it's almost a pregame meal for the next game sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, do your players ever kind of ask for like anything specific? Or they're like, "Hey, coach, can we go to Panera before the game or anything like that?" Or are they real serious about being like, "This is where we're going to have our baked chicken, our salad, that kind of stuff"?
It's been pretty standard. They seem to understand that, for a night game, it's going to go this route of the chicken and the pasta and the salad and the bread. But to say that they're a little bit excited when we have our breakfast, our pregame breakfast is an understatement.
Yeah.
Because the place we go to called Hash Browns there on campus,
Mm-hmm.
the guys will go there. They would go there every single day for brunch if they could. And that place's specialty is good pregame breakfast meal, and we tend to have good success with that one as well.
Yeah. Nice. Sounds good. I love it. All right, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's talk recruiting. Can you share one of your favorite recruiting stories with me? And that would be, like a player that you remember starting the process with them and then they ended up coming, or maybe they didn't, but it's a good recruiting story that you remember.
Well, when you talk about that, I always think back to this one young man. His name is Ivan Stanisavljevic. He's out of Belgrade, Yugoslavia, or Belgrade, Serbia, for current affairs.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fall of 2008. We had a young man, Bajo Husidic, originally from Bosnia, and there was talk of him becoming a Generation Adidas kid, and we're like, okay, great, that's awesome for the kid, awesome for the program. Well, he signed in the middle of December, and we're sitting there going, wait a minute, we were supposed to have this kid for another year.
Yeah.
Where are we going to find a player of this impact this late in the recruiting cycle for the fall of 2009? Well, we were all, Coach Trask was calling all over the place. I was calling all over the place. And I had set up a trip to go to excuse me, to Belgrade in the month of May,
Mm-hmm.
and to look at this one kid that a current player of ours had said, hey, this kid's really burning it up. He's doing great. He wants to come. So I'm working down this one lane. And then John Trask, who had coached some in the MLS, he was working down this other route with Preki,
Mm-hmm.
who has a lot of ties back all over the former Yugoslavia. And John was like, all right, Preki's telling me about this one kid. He's magical, attacking, great player, great player, great player. Our current player is telling me about a certain player. Well, I'm getting ready to get on a plane to go over. And then all of a sudden, I get a text message from John Trask. Hey, here's this kid's contact info in Belgrade. And I said, okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I get to the airport and I open it up. It's the same kid.
Yeah.
It's the exact same kid. And I go and I watch. And it was just one of the most unique things that the both of us were going down two pretty significantly different routes. And we end up with that. And then Ivan ended up coming and took great advantage of, he ended up being the Horizon League Freshman of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and had his degree in 4 years. And now he's got a great job here in finance in the city of Chicago. That's probably the most unique.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of stories of first generation college kids that I've been able to be exposed to in my time here at UIC is that list is a laundry list. So one of the great unique things about UIC as an institution, what we were created for, and it's been a great experience for myself and my two boys, for the type of kid that we get here, the type of example that they all become. Our graduation success rate of 92% since I got here as an assistant over the whole course of the time here has been a great experience. So I think when we talk about recruiting stories, I think that's where 92% of them are ending there. And a lot of those kids it's the first in their families to get their degree, and that's something we're just as proud of as Chino getting drafted in the MLS, or Andrew or Baggio or any of these other things.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a good thing because kids should know that they're going to the school to play soccer, yes, but you want them to get a degree. You want them to graduate in 4 years so that they can head out, into the real world. And if they go on and play Major League Soccer, that's fantastic. But, you know, have that fallback plan as they like to think of it,
Yes,
getting that degree.
yes.
Now, do you have any thoughts on like domestic versus international recruiting? Is there a big difference for you guys? I mean, obviously, you're not getting to just head down the road and watch them. You have to head all the way out. Is there any kind of difference in that?
Um, yes and no. I think at a place like UIC, it matches our student population. So where I think there's some universities that there's a few more challenges, but our university as a whole, whether it's um, a traditional, third, fourth generation kid in the U.S., we've got those kids here. We've got kids whose families have just come to the United States, and they're the first in the family to go. And we also have a large, uh, what used to be called straight off the boat, I now call straight off the plane population of international kids. So from an integration standpoint, it's not we don't have as many challenges, I think, as some of my peers do.
Mm-hmm.
From identifying the kids and from seeing if they're the right fit for how we play and for our academic environment. Um, I think those barriers are really starting to fall down, to go down with the advent of the internet,
Mm-hmm.
um, with the proliferation of agencies in Europe. Uh, when I was an assistant coach, even the first couple of years as a head coach, very rarely did we go through an agency. It was a current player or a friendly contact, and you were going over very much with a very specific person to look at.
Yeah.
Now it's changed to where you're going into all different countries, and some places are setting up showcases like we used to have here in the U.S. You go to 4 straight weekends, you're going to a showcase. Well, you can do almost the same thing in Europe. I think I was in 4 countries in 12 days this December,
Yeah.
and they were all showcases. So
Mm-hmm.
that dynamic has changed, but it's I don't think recruiting overseas for us is any different than maybe recruiting a kid out of the West Coast. And
Mm-hmm.
you've just got to do your homework and find the right fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that regard, then finding the right fit, let's kind of give these kids some recruiting tips. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be specific to UIC. You don't have to talk
Right.
about your needs, but we'll kind of go into just some recruiting tips that you can share with them on getting the process started and keeping it rolling.
Well, I think one of the, obviously not addressing the unique circumstance we're in right now would be remiss on my part.
Hmm.
And we were talking about it today as a staff. All right, our 2020s are done. Most universities are in different areas of their 2021s. And a lot of that window where the bulk of your recruiting in the spring months was put on pause.
Hmm.
And I've been getting a lot of emails from kids saying, hey, how can I do this? Every school is going to be a little bit different. Every coaching staff has a different philosophy. But I think the one um, common thread, whether it's a recruiting piece, whether it's what we're telling our kids right now as they were transitioning to this new e-learning, is over communicate right now.
Hmm.
Uh, but also understand that there are a number of hurdles that college coaches are having right now as far as when we're able to get you back onto our campus.
Yeah.
And everybody's in the same boat. It's not like I'm going to be able to get a kid on campus sooner than somebody else. And my hope is that most of my peers, as different states start to open up in different timelines, would respect a kid. Like if a kid's looking at a school in Illinois and looking at a school in Ohio, and Illinois opens up before Ohio, hopefully the coaches can respect that a little bit. But at this point, I'd look to over communicate and keep an open line of dialogue as far as that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, emails, we've used that for for a while now. So I don't think that's something that they should stop doing. I think they should keep
Correct.
with emails. Where are you guys at as far as like video calls? Do you do that with juniors and seniors, or you guys mostly phone call, email?
For the most part, a lot of our recruiting is local anyway, and really, I usually most college recruiting is somewhat local, except for national level schools. Um, our internationals will do a lot of whatever app you happen to have on your phone. We'll do a lot of FaceTime or WhatsApp video calls or things of that nature. We'll do a lot of that with the internationals. With the domestics, we'll do a lot of face-to-face stuff.
Yeah.
I think the evolution of Zoom calls and Skype and all of that's becoming such a norm, especially for the high school kids doing their e-learning. I think it's just naturally falling that way, and that's something we'll end up following suit with. But I've also been told by my own two boys that they're getting zoomed out, and so I think some kids may just want an old-fashioned phone call sometimes.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering what it would kind of turn into, since things are not the same anymore with the whole COVID situation. So I was kind of thinking this distance Skype and Zoom calls might be something that we end up doing a little bit more. But I could see where kids would get burned out.
Yes, no, and that's exactly what it is. So I mean, you can imagine just sitting on a call like this for, I don't know, 3-4 hours for your regular schooling, and then being asked to come into this same environment. Because soccer is supposed to be that, soccer or whatever sport you played as a kid, that was your escape from school. And sometimes I think it's an interesting, you and I are replicating right now what a teacher and a student would do in their normal school day. So I think it's just going to vary on the kid, to be honest with you. And, I think it's the job of a college coach to find a communication avenue that each student athlete is comfortable in.
Yeah, absolutely. It also might be nice for them to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little bit. I know when I was recruiting back in the day, kids liked to email because they didn't have to say anything, or send text messages. And I would prefer to talk on the phone so I can get to hear you and talk that way. So maybe this will push them away from texting and get some face to face.
I don't know. I don't know if texting's ever going away, but I agree with you. It's a lot of it. And until we're able to replace the face-to-face meeting, until we're able to replace a handshake, there's a lot that a coach can find out about a kid, and a lot of the kid can find out about a coach and how they interact, how much eye contact is there. If you and I are chatting, am I constantly checking my phone?
Right.
Well, if I'm doing that, I'm not that important, or you're not that important to me if I'm constantly doing as we're having these conversations. And I think that can go a long way for me as a coach evaluating you. How are your Zoom manners almost? A lot of times we equate how's a kid to shake your hand? Do they look you in the eye? Well, we can't do that right now. So, if I set up a Zoom call or a Skype call or a WhatsApp video call, and there's a kid that's laying in their bed, we had, even with my own team, we had to have a few, okay, guys, I realize it's a Skype call, but sit up, get out of bed. You don't have to be completely uncomfortable. We're not asking for a classroom, but turn on the light, make sure I can see your face.
Yeah.
Sit up straight. Look like you've been awake for more than 10 minutes. So there are ways right now to build that vital relationship that there is between a student athlete or a potential student athlete and the coach. And it's just a different way to figure those things out. And eye contact is eye contact.
Right.
And a lack of comfort and always kind of having a conversation like this tells me something about you.
Yeah.
Or again, vice versa. What are you able to figure out about me as a coach? Those are all things that are very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of leads me to my next set of questions here. When we're talking about leadership, or things that you can kind of figure out when you're having conversations with kids too. So can you kind of give me your idea of what you think makes makes a leader? Kind of a define it.
Yeah, it's been an interesting topic of conversation. Again, going back to like when I played, you had one or two guys. Those were your leaders. They were
Mm-hmm.
defined, and that was the dynamic of that day. But really, whether it's right or it's wrong is a whole nother discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Those leaders are fewer and further between. They're more and more difficult to identify. And so what we're trying to what I've started really looking at is, yeah, do I want to grab that one guy that can galvanize an entire, yes, that guy is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're not coming into college athletics as polished as they were even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So what what I've really started to look for are leadership traits within kids.
Okay.
All right. I think that, everybody talks about this leadership group concept. I don't think it's a topic of the day. I think it's a legitimate piece of the puzzle. Some people are comfortable leading in certain ways. And so what I'll do is when I'm looking at a kid and recruiting the kid, what leadership traits might that kid have? And then how can we weave that into that kid's class?
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually you're going to have rising juniors and rising seniors who become leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That leader could be, is that leader the best player on the field, but they're just not comfortable calling guys out. Then you have the kid that can call a guy out because they have done everything right all the time. And it doesn't matter if they play all the time or are key reserve.
Yeah.
You've got the guy that keeps the locker room organized to make sure everybody is on time for everything. And some leadership attributes are unique to college athletics as well.
Yeah.
And so do I think every single person is a leader? No. Do I think if you look at your rising juniors and seniors, can each one of them help lead the group in the right direction? Yes. Much like somebody can help lead it in the wrong direction,
Right.
you can help lead it in the right direction. And then what you do, the teams that have really been successful that I've been around, whether it's at UIC, Indiana, my youth teams, my club teams, we've all had that whole dynamic where everybody's going in the right direction. And then on top of it, you have one or two guys that are really, they're the guys that'll go and get it.
Yeah.
But they've got another 7 guys amongst them that really get things going. I think the group that really flipped the culture since I've been the head coach started to get cultivated in 2012, but it was in 2013 where we had 7 seniors.
Yeah.
That had been through a lot individually and collectively. And we had one guy that kind of led the charge. But when he was leading the charge, you had the other 6 guys leading in their way that they were comfortable leading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a coach, that's part of my job, is to figure out what way are you comfortable leading and put you in that role. And then when you find the special one or special ones, then you put them all together and you give them those roles. That's what I've found that are some of the different leadership traits. I think it's gonna be very difficult to find. It always has been difficult to find the really special ones. But I think if as coaches we can find those leadership traits, then you put it all together much like a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you put it to where everyone can be a leader just in their own way and kind of add it in, because you're going to have more than 11 guys on your team. So you're not always going to have people that are always starting. Right? So they all have a role. And they can still lead from the locker room. They can still lead from the sidelines. They can still step up where it's needed. So I like that you put it like that.
And I think it's more of a college, something like you would find in a college rank. Professionally, when you're looking at leaders, it's such a different dynamic.
Yeah.
But I think in college athletics, that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Can you give me some examples of some good leaders, and then also some bad leaders that you've noticed throughout the years? What are some things that the great ones are doing, and what are some things that the bad ones are doing?
In a general sense, the good ones tend to maximize whatever attributes that they have as far as the soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're an unbelievable athlete, you're going to be very good at that, and you're going to make it. But you're also going to try and maximize everything else,
Yeah.
whether it be the classroom. And some guys, it doesn't come good. There was a young man, Sasha Simon. He came in and he knew he was gonna probably redshirt and fight and scrap for time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the epitome of a guy that took advantage of every opportunity that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And he led us. He was a leader. That was his attribute. Then you have certain guys that lead on game day, and all of those things come together. And the great thing about Sasha is he sat there and did what he did, and then he had key moments, and he was always ready. That, hey, we need you to play. He was not going to be a 90-minute, 20-game starter, but he knew how to take advantage of every opportunity he was given, whether it was in the classroom or the training room, the weight room. He maximized his athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
He maximized his soccer abilities. He maximized his leadership in the locker room. Well, he was a part of our teams that 16, 17, or 15, 16, 17. He won 3 championships.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. He won 4 over his 5 years. And the glitch in that run that we've had from 13 to 19, where we won either the regular season or the tournament championship. And in the years we won the tournament championship, we didn't finish lower than second, with the exception of 1 year, 2014. And that was a year that, after we had lost all of that strong leadership with that group in 13, and in 14, there was just a vacuum. We didn't have enough older guys that were doing everything right all the time, or most of the time, or striving to do everything right. Right? I think you can't have perfection in any part, but you can always strive for it. Yeah. And we had a group of guys in 13 that were striving for it. 14, we didn't have enough critical mass, and there were some shortcuts taken. And that eventually caught up to us.
Yeah.
And then we brought somebody in 15. His name's Oscar Rivero. He did everything right all the time. And then eventually he fought and he clawed. And he did not get his opportunity until 2016 to be an everyday contributor. Well, that then picked up where the group of 13 left off. And have we had the exact leadership that I've wanted every day since then? No.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty good. And good leadership usually ends up in good results, in finding a way to win championships, and also in getting your graduation done. And those are 2 things that I think we've been pretty proud of since 2013, is far more years than not we've won one of those trophies. And our graduation success rate is at 92%. Yeah. So all of those things, those are having the right character and the right balance of leaders. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that, you're not going to win. If you don't have all the talent in the world, those types of things can make up for that shortcoming.
Yeah.
Because if you do everything right, or if you strive to do everything right all the time, those shortcomings tend to get minimized. And then everybody ends up playing towards their strengths.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mental toughness kind of jumps in there too. When you have enough talent, but you still have that grit and that drive, it really kind of helps lead you.
And that's what's missing right now. I think overall is there's a lack of grit and toughness that kids are getting exposed to growing up. And it's a tough thing to develop in the window that we're given as college soccer coaches. And so
Mhm.
you have to identify it. And that's where I go back to, if you can find the strains of leadership within the kids, I think then we have to develop it.
Right. Yeah. Now, is it for you as a coach, is that easy for you to kind of see when you're watching kids? Can you kind of pick out those leaders as you go, or is it something that you maybe see potential and know that you can nurture that when they get to you? Any thoughts on
It,
that?
I think it's a multi-layered approach. You're going to see it. You're going to see it in how they treat their parents. You're going to see it in how they treat their teammates. How do they treat their referees? How do they treat their coaches? So as they play, and again, we're not looking for some goody two shoes, right? You still want to find a guy that can go in hard for a tackle.
Hmm.
Um, but how does that player respond in the adverse of
Right.
that when they're the recipient of the tackle? So you sit there and in all those moments you see them, and the trick is trying to identify those moments when they don't think you're watching. And then if you see those traits, then it's call the kid's club coach. If the kid plays for the high school team, call the high school team. Talk to their teammates. Kind of an underappreciated piece is talking to their guidance counselor. If you're not in an environment where you can watch the kids all the time and really get to know them, the guidance counselor goes a long, long way
Yeah.
towards letting you know. So you got to figure that out, and then at some point you have to make a decision as a staff. Does this kid check off enough of the boxes that you're comfortable that you can go on and develop it?
Hmm.
Because really, if we're doing our job from the time they show up, from the time we get a commitment from them, or even if you want to go back to the recruiting process when they
Hmm.
come onto campus for the visit, all the way until the time they're done, have you seen a development in those areas with that kid? And again, if I go back to, not every kid is a natural leader, fine, but every kid has some leadership attributes. Can they learn to at least lead with their example? Everybody can lead by example.
Yeah.
If you can at least get that and get kids understanding that that's part of it, then I think you've done your job. But you can develop certain attributes.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus that's a one of the small parts of what makes coaches great too, is that you guys are also leaders. And so if you can find that potential and bring it out of them, that's also something helpful that
Yes.
you can do for sure. Um, all right, Sean. Well, I have really enjoyed sitting down and chatting with you. I know you wanted to head out and kick the ball around with your son, so I don't want to keep you any
Yes.
longer. But I do appreciate you sitting down, and hopefully we can all be back out on the field soon.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Have a good
All right.
one.
Bye bye.